Hey, welcome back. It's MJ here at Just Plain Fun. I've had this idea bouncing around in my head about doing a short series about what my 11-year-old son would call hacks for, just different techniques and things that you can use to help tune up your plane and help, in this case, set your frog, for example. So if you're brand new to planes, if you're not overly familiar with them, you may not know, but Stanley in the Type 10 era introduced this frog adjustment screw that you see right here, and it allows you to make fine adjustments to your frog and to be able to mechanically move it forward and aft. And one of the challenges that you might run into is, you can see here that we've got some lateral movement there. It moves from left to right. And so the first thing that you're going to do before you go to tighten your frog down is you're going to actually use this frog adjustment screw in order to move your frog forward. And you want to have just an even slope, if you will, where your iron is going to rest. And we're not getting into the whole issue with, or the concept rather, of opening or closing the mouth. We're just talking about just a basic setup here, especially for somebody who is, maybe setting one for the first time or doesn't have a ton of experience with it. And so you're going to line that up, the leading edge of your frog right there, so that it forms one continuous line going into the mouth of your plane. And then once you've got that line set the way that you want it, then the next logical step would be to go ahead and, of course, we want to have that even, straight, whatever held tight from left to right. The next logical step would be to tighten your two frog mounting screws. But what I've discovered recently, or what I've kind of stumbled on recently, is I find that it's easier to go ahead and loosen this back screw back here, the top one that's on the frog adjustment plate. And that gives me full and free movement of the frog. I find that it's not locked in one position anywhere of any of the four screws that affect the positioning of the frog. That's the main thing, is all four screws are going to be loose at the same time. And then you'll figure out from your experience what the best order is to tighten those down. But the way that I like to do it is I like to have everything loose. And then the very first thing that I will tighten, and this is a little bit tough to do on camera because I'm having to hold the plane in a certain position in order to give you all the best view. But when it's sitting down and when you're doing this off camera, it is a lot easier. But what I found is I like to just snug these two frog screws, these two main frog mounting screws. That's my first step. And then I'll check my alignment there and make sure that I'm all set from left to right and that I'm still even. And I'm not smoking those down by any means. I'm just getting them snug. And then if I'm satisfied with the alignment there, then I'll go ahead and tighten that top screw back there on the plate. And then, of course, anytime that I'm tightening something, I'm always going to go back and just double check my alignment, make sure it's still where I want it to be. Then I'll go ahead and put a little more snug on those main frog adjustment screws. And the idea here is you want to have that thing as close to perfect as you can. You want to have that frog centered, and you want to have that not, askew from one side or the other, because you want to be able to have your lateral adjust lever in the center. You want to be able to start from center when you're adjusting your iron from left to right. And then the last thing that I like to do once I'm done setting my frog is I like to go ahead and just put, it's not even an eighth of a turn. I mean, it's really just more of a matter of snugging that frog adjustment screw. You're already tight. So essentially what you're doing is you're kind of putting pressure on that frog adjustment plate. And that really helps kind of lock that frog into place and keep that thing from moving. And if you want to, just as an added step, you can go back and maybe put a little bit, again, not even an eighth of a turn. It's not even going to turn that much because they're already snug. So it's kind of like tightening the lug nuts on a car wheel when you install it. You're going to alternate from lug nut to lug nut, same concept. You're going to alternate from screw to screw as you're tightening this thing down until you get it right where you want it and you get it fully tightened. And so now, ideally, with my iron installed, as you can see, I've got my lateral adjust pretty close to center there in the middle of the iron. And then I've got my iron what I think is pretty close to dead center there from left to right inside the mouth, inside the plane. So I'm hopefully starting everything from the center there. And then when I go to start making my adjustments, hopefully I'm just having to move the lateral just a tiny bit, a wee bit at a time. And as far as the lateral adjust lever goes, you know, I like to have the lateral adjust to be very tight, and that way when I do make fine adjustments, the thing is going to stay right where I want it. And maybe we'll do another video. I know there's other ones out there on YouTube, but we'll do another video and talk about some ways that you can carefully tighten up that lateral adjust. So there you have it, short and sweet, just one technique for tightening down your frog. I mean, it's certainly not the only way. Maybe you've got an established way that you've been doing it and it's working for you. That's fantastic. Again, this is just one option, one technique to try. Maybe you're having some trouble getting your frog to tighten down the way that you want it. So give it a shot. Let me know what you think.